And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson. 100% agree. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Weighing In Podcast. Big John is still on his holiday, and I am sick as hell. So I will do the best I can to recap this morning's UFC event, as well as talk about a couple little news clips that we have been talking about. What I'm gonna be with my boy over here. We're gonna stop calling you Keto. You like Keto? Should we call you something else?
You can call me anything but Sue.
Okay. Maybe we call you Mufasa. I like Mufasa. What do you think about Mufasa? You got that beard right there, man. It makes me feel like Mufasa.
Right now I do. I got the pubes on my face.
The pubes in the face. It's funny, man, with the red ginger face.
Yeah.
You get that red ginger face, so it just,
I had to. The pirate was fighting today. I had to match his look a little bit.
Jeez, man. Hey, let me ask you just real quick. Was a fraud check or no?
No, I mean, he's already saying that he had some catastrophic health issue going on. He already mentioned that, so that's a little bit dusty. But
Dusty, that's what
I mean, he tried to strike with somebody who's like very well known for striking, just in a very awkward, unique way, even more awkward and unique than him. So
yeah. All right, we're gonna touch on that fight for a little bit, but hey, before we move on, this show is brought to you by BetUS. If you guys would have picked up my bets, man, you would have made some money this last week. So I had Imavov winning this fight. I had MVP winning this fight. And there was one other fight that I had picked. Obviously I picked Sergey. Sergey was for me, it was a no-brainer. There was one other fight. No, I think that was it. I think it was just the three of them. Yeah. So those were my three picks, and I had the wins. So good for me. Hey, look, this is the fight business, man. Anytime you're throwing out some bets over at BetUS, man, you just never know. I just feel like once you're emotionally involved, you seem like you're sitting there stressing. It's almost like bad juju. Like you're just throwing bad juju at it because you bet on them. So
it's like every time you watch your favorite sports team, they lose.
Yeah,
when you don't watch them, they don't lose. They play.
That's why I don't bet on my favorite sports team, which I like all the sports. I like watching baseball. I have a hard time with. Only when it gets around the playoffs and World Series time do I watch it. But basketball, I'll watch it up until like probably the 65th game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because like then it's kind of you're getting closer to the playoffs, a lot more at stake. I feel like they're playing a lot harder. But those first like 50 games, they're just out there going through the motions, man. It just doesn't feel like they really care. When the seasons are that long, you're not getting the best out of them, But yeah. So I threw some money down at BetUS and came up big on this one, so it was good. And also too, over at OnlyFans, join us, subscribe to us over there. It is free. Subscribe to our podcast here. Subscribe to us. If you guys are not subscribed to us yet, hey, hit the subscribe button. Also, I have a Dad Dojo podcast. Hit that subscribe button over there as well. The link is down below in the descriptions. And we've been using this product called Element. So that's kind of the cue right there where he's going to throw the commercial in later today. But we have a commercial that we did for them, and they have a great product, so you guys check them out.
My farm needs the earth, the air, and the water. I get my energy going on Element Electrolyte Drink Mix. Clean, good-tasting energy that feeds me like I feed my plants and animals. And after a long day on the tractor, when it's time to shoot the podcast, I drink Element so that I can stay energized and stay salty. Let's get it on.
But that's the cue, George. That's the cue right there. So he's going to run that commercial, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into Nasruddin Imavov. I've been saying Imavov forever and ever, and I just realized that it was Imavov is how they were all saying it.
He said, respect my name.
Yeah, put some respect on my name. Fuck it. No disrespect, man. I saw what you did to Izzy, bro. But what's funny is, let me ask you, I'm going to go back to the pirate thing, to the pirate question. Is this a fraud check for Izzy?
I just think Australia is cursed in their fight team. They all had him, Volk. They had such a fiery rise, and maybe it was just a tell of the time that the transition of the UFC guard, and there's another one happening right now. I don't know. I'm too biased. That's my favorite fighter, so I can't.
Is
I
he
can't,
really your favorite fighter?
my favorite active fighter? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about all time.
Well, I
think
saw this thing. It says like super fan. I think he's Irish. Anyway, it says it's time to have this conversation. It has a picture of Izzy. He was never that good. I'm gonna make this as quick as possible. That dude is an animal. He was an animal. He was a sniper. But just like every single fighter, okay, and it's gonna come for all of them, is what happens is once they lose, kind of the blueprint is on how to beat him. Poatan came out and laid out the blueprint on how to beat him. Walked him down, threw big shots. You know, he doesn't fight as good going backwards. Sure, he's got knockouts, you know, kind of leaning back over Robert Whittaker in those kind of exchanges. But let's be honest, he has that tall, long, lanky body that benefited him when he wasn't fighting guys that were as tall as him. You know, Kelvin Gastelum, Robert Whittaker, not as long as him, those guys. And I've said this forever, man. I've said that body style is horrible to deal with in this sport of MMA. The long push kicks up the middle, the oblique kicks from John Jones, you know, the long jabs, the long right hands, the long slapping left, you know, like left hooks, whatever it is, you know, the Nick and Nate Diaz from the long slappy hands. Like those are all things that work to them because they don't have to throw a lot of power. They can touch you from far out wide. So is Izzy, was this like a fraud check for Izzy, or was this he was never that good? That's a bunch of bullshit. Izzy was the man. And I'm gonna die on that hill, man. This kid was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But once you lose, the confidence isn't what it was when you were making the rise. That's one. Two is the blueprints have now been laid out on how to beat you. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone can do it. Only certain guys can. Well, Imavov was the guy tonight that could do it. And so in terms of like Drickus threw big shots, just couldn't get to the range, but was able to finally get him down and hit the submission. So that's another one of his weaknesses. So if he can't beat you on the feet, now he's going to have to figure out that remedy on the ground. Sorry, guys. I've got a fever and a cough and all this other stuff. So I'll make do with the best I can. Big John leaving me high and dry at 3 shows. See how it is. This guy's out there on a cruise ship right now enjoying Mai Tais. Son of a bitch. Anyways, I want to wish them all happy 40th anniversary to the McCarthys. Yeah, he's a stud. I'm going to die on the hill saying it. This guy was an animal. You know, he's done some questionable things, you know, feeding his dog with his mouth. A little strange. But, you know, other things, I think he's represented, I feel like, the sport pretty well. The whole thing let's go back in history a little bit, when all that stuff was going on with Joe Rogan, how he spoke up and defended him and took, you know, and basically just defended the fact that like, nah, man, this is not how it is. I know Joe and everyone, and we all know Joe. You know what I mean? Most of us have been around him, hung out with him, and understand that a lot of us have been on his podcast. But Joe is a great person. He spoke up about it. Izzy's been somebody too that has been very vocal about, you know, other things in the sport, on being taken care of by, you know, the UFC and you know, and just everything. So in terms of his fighting style, in terms of his ability to lay it out there on the line, we saw that in the Kelvin Gastelum fight. He's a true fighter. And no, I don't think there shouldn't even be a conversation about like, he was never that good. He was phenomenal. Now, look, I've always said this though as well. The 185-pound division is, to me, I've always felt was the weakest division in the sport. But that doesn't mean that he's not a good fighter. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I think he's a great fighter. He happened to run that ship for a while. You know, he's actually what brought notoriety to that weight class. So I give him a lot of credit. Phenomenal fighter, great stand-up. You know, ended up sorry guys, ended up getting his win back against Poatan. But look, you know, he's done what he can, and it's almost like guys that know how to pressure him and fight him kind of in a phone booth are the ones that have success. You know, he's used to being able to reach out, keep the arm's length away because of his lankiness, his tall, long, and lanky body. He's been able to do that, like John Jones has, and other fighters have that are that style. Imavov, though, look, let's be honest. Imavov was losing that fight. In the first round, he was getting pieced up. Go back, and this is the other thing, is I want to say, in the first round, not only did Izzy look good, I saw this thing on his face, like this determination. I'm reinvented. He looked physically tighter. Everything, like his shoulders, his back. You know, I don't know if you guys can pay attention. Go back and watch some of his other fights. he was a lot more relaxed and more fluid. I understand that sometimes can work for you and work against you, but I felt like he was very focused and determined in this fight. Go and watch the fight again. Notice how he's keeping his jaw clenched. Notice how he's constantly like keeping laser focused on Imavov. Right in front of him, he's never stopping. He never stops keeping his eyes off of him. He's always right there. He looked ready to go. Like it seemed like there was no outside distractions. He literally got caught with that shot, and the rest is history, man. Imavov. Go ahead.
Do you think when he got poked in the eye, do you think that had anything to do with him not seeing that overhand coming?
No, I don't think so.
He told the ref, and then he got landed on as soon as he switched stances.
No, I don't think so. I think just, anytime you get hit and, if he would have got hit in the eye good enough, he should have circled out and like kind of but circled out, created more space and given the opportunity to circle out and give more space. He didn't do that. And I don't want to take anything away from Imavov, but the way that I look at this fight was Izzy looked focused. He looked ready. He was tearing him up in the first round, and he came out, took a big shot, and couldn't recover. And it was quick. It was quick from there. And that's the problem when you're dealing with guys. Not that they don't have to have one crunch, but they're finishers. If you go back and watch how Imavov finished that fight, he drops him, but he doesn't just start swinging wild. He literally like closes distance, pushes his hips into him, and then picks his next shot, which is with the left hand right to the side of the face. Like that was very clean. A lot of guys would have just ran and just started flailing, missing a lot of those shots and giving Izzy an opportunity to recover. We see it all the time. We might be world-class fighters, but we also we let the emotions get the better of us sometimes, and we blitz and nothing ever hit and nothing ever really lands. And so in this fight, though, I thought Imavov looked fantastic in that 30 seconds, though. But in terms of the first round, he didn't look good. He was having a hard time finding his range. He was having a hard time. I know that he was taking some big shots in terms of leg kicks. I thought Izzy looked focused. Thought Izzy looked great. Now I can't take anything away from Imavov. He got the job done. This is a 5-round fight. Anything can happen, but it's hard to beat that guy who's on the rise when you've been a little bit on shaky ground this last couple fights. So I look at Izzy in terms of everyone's like, oh, he's never that good. No, he was that good. He's always been that good. Just stylistically, there's certain guys that will match up well with him now that the blueprint's been laid out. It's to get him to move backwards, get him to fight moving backwards. As soon as his back touches the fence, you try to touch him from there. Do things that get in between his guard. Don't try to go around so much. Go uppercut, upper between, and then come over the top after that. Those type of things. So I thought he looked. I thought he did the right things. He made the adjustments after the first round. And he landed a good shot, kill shot, and was able to jump on and get the finish. Good for him. Izzy will be back. I think he's got another run in him, even at 35 years old. I think 185 pounds, like I said, to me has always been the weakest weight class. 205 is pretty close to it right now, which is sad because it used to be the pillar of the organization and the sport. With Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, all the top 205 pounders were. The ones that kind of carried the grunt of the media and promotion of the fights of MMA back in the day. Izzy, though, has done his part, man. He's doing a great job marketing and helping this sport grow. And Imavov just came out ready to fight, man. He made the adjustments in between the first and the second round and looked good. So he got it done. Tip my hat to him. Michael Venom Page versus Shara Bullet. What do you think?
It was pretty predictable. It was two swords going at it, but one was a little bit sharper and quicker,
Yeah, what I had on this fight was if Shar could get the leg kicks off a little bit more, but then also too, Michael Venom Page doesn't have as much bounce in his step, especially at 185, but as he gets older, he's not bouncing as much as he used to when he was in Bellator. He was a lot in, out, a lot of feints. I think he realized going up to 185 was the best thing for him because he's going to be leaps and bounds faster than a lot of them. And that's one of the benefits of going up versus going down, especially if you're in those weight classes where it's like 170, 155 and below. Speed starts to kill if you go down. Most fighters, at this stage of their career should think about going up because if you have any speed at all, that'll carry. And so I think that's one. I thought it was a very smart move by him. Plus, he's got a big body frame. He's tall. He's long, extremely fast, and sniper-like. You know, he's got to be a little bit more active, but it's very difficult when you're fighting guys like that. He's got to be active in terms of he can put more combinations together. I also think though he struggles with the fact that he doesn't want to be taken down because he'll struggle to get back up, especially at 185 pounds. If someone takes him down there, he'll struggle to get back up. Because those guys will carry the hips a little bit better. They're going to be obviously a little bit bigger, heavier for him to, try to work his way back up to his feet. But MVP, I thought, kind of dominated the fight. Just very one-sided, very touch and, land, touch and land and circle out. Seemed like he was in control the whole fight. Was it to me though? To me, I felt like it was a little bit of a fraud check. Not that he's not a good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Not that he's not a good fighter. I just looked at it as he hasn't had to fight a tough wrestler, and he hasn't had to fight a elite striker, and he leaves himself open quite a bit when he does strike. He's tough as nails, but he's got to make some adjustments to move forward. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what adjustments he makes off of this fight. Look, we've had a lot. Who was it? It was Talbot. He had his first loss. Umar Nurmagomedov had his first loss, and so did him. So did Sharabullet. They all had their first loss, this month. I know this is February now, but they all had their first loss in these first couple shows. And so how are they gonna answer that and come back? That's gonna be the question. So are they gonna be better fighters when they come back? Are they gonna work to improve their game? It's one thing to have that and not want to change anything because it seems to be working. But then once you lose a fight, okay, what do I need to do to make it better? I lean towards with Sharabullet, and he needs to work a little bit more. It's hard to take away a lot from this fight because you're fighting someone like a Lyoto Machida, Stephen Thompson. It's very rare you're going to have to fight somebody like them. And there's not going to be any other guys like him for right now. So it's very difficult to deal with that type of fighter. Peyton Talbot, right? He's gonna have to work on his grappling, his ground, all of those things. Sorry, guys, man, I'm dying over here.
It was a good fight to see where he's at right now, though. Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely was. All right, let's go. Sergey Pavlovich versus Rozenstruik. I thought this was going to be. I thought there's going to be more wrestling, even though there was some wrestling, but the wrestling didn't get started till later on in the fight. It was about round 2, as the wrestling started. I thought Sergey did a good job of keeping that wrestling, keeping it on the feet to get Rozenstruik to go ahead and engage more. And then the takedowns came a little bit easier. But once the takedowns happen in the heavyweight divisions, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, heavyweights, if they don't know how to wrestle, or if they don't know how to get up off the bottom, it's just like watching turtles on their back, man. Like once somebody falls down, somebody ends up on top, like they're stuck there for the whole round. It's almost like just right off the round. And so when I see, heavyweights hit their back, I'm like, oh, I mean, the days of having like a DC or a Cain Velasquez or, fighters like that when they hit their back, but certain guys, they were good off their back. Verdum was really good off his back, and guys that could fight off their back. So, but those guys are very few and far between, the ones that were good with jiu-jitsu off their back. So, but a very, very dominant performance, I thought, by Pavlovich. And, see what's next for him. We're going to find out. Vinicius Oliveira and Said Nurmagomedov. Let me just say this, man. Cardio. Oh, yeah. Just cardio. Both of them looked exhausted during that fight. They both looked tired. Said just looked more tired. And I know that Oliveira called for, the fight with Umar Nurmagomedov. Not a good. I mean, like, whatever. I think it's a good fight for Umar. Take the fight. If I'm Umar, I take that fight. I don't think it's a good fight for Oliveira at all. I think that he looked exhausted, and when I was watching the fight in round 1, I went to the restroom, came back, and I thought maybe I was in there for a while, and I came back and I was like, well, this is round 3 because they looked so tired. It was still only round 2. They both look exhausted, and I was like, wait, what's going on here? Like both these guys in the bantamweight division, it's so rare you see bantamweight fighters that tired. I mean, especially in round 2. I mean, they're tired, but they're not like they normally are pushing the action back and forth, back and forth. Like that's the benefit of having the lighter guys fight, right? They're not knocking very many people out. The power's not really there. But man, they're conditioning their cardio and they usually set at a very high pace. I didn't see that. So Saeed, though, he just, it was that one of those fights. Anyways, I'm going to work my way on down to some of these other fights. Shamil Gaziev, I thought Naimov looked good. I thought Ziam looked good. The Mike Davis-Ziam fight was, a nice fight. Bloody mess. A lot of action back and forth. Good fight. Naimov looked good. How did I ever say his last name? Offley. I thought he was somebody that needed to, pull the trigger a little bit more. Needed to close that distance a little bit more. He needed to throw caution to the wind. When you're down that much, you've got to really just kind of get after it. Gaziev, he's somebody that is, he's hit or miss. And everyone keeps saying, oh, well, he's never had really a full camp, this and that. Well, then stop taking fights on short notice then. Or stop, or like if you get injured, pull out. I mean, you're going to have to reschedule. There's no reason to take fights that you may potentially lose. This ain't a Make-A-Wish Foundation, man. The UFC doesn't give a shit. Once you sign on the dotted line, that goes as a loss on your record. So there's no reason to take those fights if you're not 100%. And I know that none of us, no fighter is ever 100%. It's very rare that you're 100% going into a fight. There's always something. A toe, a hand, a pinky, a thumb, a little bit of kink in your neck or in your back, my pussy and my crack, all those things, right? There's always something a little wrong. The hip hurts a little bit, the knee's kind of banged up, whatever it is. But I mean, if you, in the heavyweight division, all you have to do is string along 2 or 3, and you're pretty much right there for a title shot because it's a pretty weak division. So I think for him, he's just got to make sure he stays on track. Great shot though. Beautiful right hand. Saw it landing pretty much all throughout early in the fight. Why he was having success with that is he wasn't loading up. He was just throwing it from the hip, turning the body, touching him right in the face. Bink. And then he'd circle a little bit or he'd stand there a little bit and move his body a little bit and then boom, throw it again. No real setup. Just doing it nice and light, nice and easy, right down the middle and not telegraphing it, not loading up. There's something to be said about that a lot of fighters, when you load up, we see it coming. And so if you can just throw it without loading up, it's just beautiful, man. And it lands almost every single time. MMA guys have a hard time doing that because it's the little gloves. And so we feel like, look, I can get him out of here with one shot if I land the hard shot. So we constantly are loading up, trying to get it. And we also try to get there fast. So they can't counter us with the little gloves and get in between our defense. With boxing, I have a little bit more defense with the bigger gloves. I can block like this. So it's harder. You have to set those up more to land those type of clean shots. Terrence McKinney, I thought, good for him. Good for him. Yeah. I mean, this kid, like he's had such a up and down. He's came and exploded onto the scene, took some losses, but man, the kid's phenomenal, man. I really like him. I love watching him. I think he sounds like he's finding his way in life as well, which is definitely a benefit. And so I'm happy for him, get another win. He's going to have to, he's one of those guys I'm not sold on until I see him go a hard 3 rounds. That's the thing with him.
That's his 6th first-round win with his 0 bonuses from those 6 first-round wins.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Man, no love. Facts. That's no love right there. Jasmine Jasdavicius versus Mayra Bruno Silva. I mean, they were trying to talk about how the altitude in Saudi Arabia is like about 2,000 feet and this and that. Maybe it's a possibility because I think Bruno Silva trains over at American Top Team. I mean, she looked exhausted after the first round. And I actually think that had to do more with the weight cut because she dropped down in weight versus the actual altitude. I've been in Saudi Arabia. I've been there. I've ran around through there. I went for a run for there. Climbed, I was running sand dunes and all this other shit. And I'm fucking fat and out of shape. So if I wasn't winded, she could have been just fine. She should have been just fine. So I like how the broadcast team was trying to make it up for her and try to carry her a little bit. But bottom line is, I think it was the weight cut. She was done. She was absolutely done after the first round. She tried hard in the beginning of each round after that. She just had nothing. Everything was coming out like Jell-O. And if you guys don't believe me, go take a look at when Cain Velasquez fought Fabricio Verdum. He fought him in Mexico City. And Cain's known for his conditioning, his cardio. He was exhausted. the altitude, that's a lot higher, obviously, than Saudi Arabia. But bottom line is when you get the altitude and it starts to fuck with you and you're conditioning your cardio, there's nothing you can do. Your body just feels like jello. Your arms feel like noodles. Everything's coming out really like slow and lethargic. You can't bring your hands back to your face. Any of those things. I had a fight in Denver, a long time ago in this smaller organization before my UFC stint. And luckily the fight was done, but I got done with that fight. It was like I got done with the fight probably in about, 3-4 minutes. But I stood up after that fight, after the triangle, and I got back up and I was like, damn, I'm exhausted. Whew, and I just knew that, and most people don't realize how tired they are until they get back to their corner after round one. Because now you have a moment to focus on how tired you are. Now your body all of a sudden kicks in. You're like, hey, buddy, we need some oxygen. Hey, can you spare some, please? Can you open your mouth and breathe in? Can we get some oxygen to these muscles? Because they're just not moving right now. And that's exactly what I felt like she was going through. So, all right, hey, that's going to wrap up our UFC talk. I didn't get a chance to watch the very first fight, but I'm going to have to talk about that because I heard it was very controversial.
Yeah, I also didn't get a good chance to watch it.
Yeah.
I heard, I think it was Paul Felder say he gave all 3 rounds to the other guy.
Yeah.
But hey, it's Saudi Arabia. The judging, come on, you can't get too upset at them over there.
I know, but I think they're all American judges.
Yeah.
Judges from here.
That's what they tell you.
Bottom line is I'm going to take a look at that. And I think also too, when Big John gets back, he'll take a look at it. Maybe we can go over that scoring and if it's worth it, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and talk about some news though. And give me some news.
Well, big story. Paul Hughes versus Conor McGregor. It's getting pretty heated over there, huh? Tons of words being said.
But what do you mean? Like I don't see what the controversy is. Like, look, from what I understand where Paul Hughes is from, like you really can't question.
Did you see Conor's tweet where he said the N-word 800 times?
Oh, Conor.
There's a little bit of controversy there. The same day that Bryce Mitchell says he wants to go fishing with Hitler.
Yeah.
What is happening to our beautiful sport, Josh?
Jeez, man. What happens is, I went through this a little bit too early in my career. Is you put a mic in front of somebody, and sometimes they say the wrong things, and yeah, it is. Look, I'm definitely not condoning anything, but look, using the N-word on the platform. Look, let's just be honest. Conor he's taking a shift. He's the heel. I mean, he's always kind of been a little bit of the heel, but people also admired him and looked up to him before the Khabib fight. They all kind of admired him and looked up to him. The Khabib fight really brought a negative out of him. He was what I felt like in that fight? He was afraid of Khabib. He knew that there was a legit threat, and there was nothing he could do about it. There was nothing. He thought for sure if I catch him, if I can knock him out, sure. But I think he knew that in a 5-round fight, it was going to be very difficult. And the things that came out of his mouth, and the things that he talked about, the things that he said about Khabib's dad, about his country, about his village, about his wife, all of those things, unforgettable. Yep, unforgivable.
It shows the ego of man.
It's unforgivable as well. And that's the problem. And I think where we're at right now, look, I posted this thing on Twitter or X. I basically said, like, is there a new Irishman in town who's kind of taking over the throne, for Conor? And everyone's like, absolutely, absolutely. Like everyone's like kind of written Conor off, and now look, I'm not saying that Paul Hughes can be that guy, but I feel like, look, he has definitely bridged that gap between, Muslims and the Irish. And I thought that was a very, very classy thing to do. I do a bit for our OnlyFans channel, and we do a fan favorite fighter of the month. And if you guys can check it out over there, it'd be great. But Paul Hughes is mine. And I talked about all the ins and outs of his career. I talked about him specifically and what it meant, I think, for the sport of MMA, and also what it meant for fighters in Dagestan, fighters in Ireland, and that sense of community that he tried to build with those words that he said after the fight. So, check that out over at OnlyFans. What else you got for me?
Well, of course, there's the Bryce Mitchell stuff. That was very, very silly. He issued an apology already. Dana said he's not going to punish him, but I'm pretty sure Chael said that UFC's still probably going to punish him. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
His next matchup is not going to be a favorable one, probably.
Yeah, you got to give the fans what they want, man. They want to see him get his ass beat. So they're going to be like, hey, we're going to match you up with this guy. Take it or leave it. That's kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess for me, the bottom line is he really fucking stepped in it. he really stepped in it. It's one of those things where it was his first podcast, his first episode of his first new podcast. And this is what you leaded with? I mean, I'm baffled, man. I'm so baffled by this.
I'm sure it got some views though, right?
Oh yeah. But I mean, I can imagine it. I mean, I'd say 99.9% of it was negative.
Far right views, but
yeah, I mean, I want to read the comments on that. Shit. I think I did read. What did he say? You want to read what he said in terms of his apology?
Yeah, let me find it real quick.
I got it right here. It says, "I'm sorry I sounded insensitive. I definitely was not trying to offend anybody, but I know I did. I know that a lot of people died in the Holocaust, and that's a fact. Hitler did a lot of evil things. I think we can all agree on that. I'm definitely not a Nazi, and definitely do not condone any of the evil things Hitler did." I mean, it was a very thought out response. I thought it was very directed to the point. He's a strange kid, man. He speaks his mind. He believes in freedom of speech. Luckily the company he works for does the same. But I mean, here's the thing. We live in a time of clicks. We don't live in the time of knowledge. Even though there's more knowledge available to all of us at any moment, we can look it up online and be like, hey, there's the answer. We don't do that. We formulate our own ideas and we come to our own conclusions based off of those ideas. And majority of the time they're wrong, and they're built up into things that are not factual. And the fact that we make ourselves available for clickbait. And in saying that, I think that he was like, hey, look, I'm going to get people to listen to me. I'm going to get people to click my podcast by saying just outlandish things. And it's worked for him in the past, doing car sales things or things like that back in the day. He was doing all different types of stuff, the way he fights in his camouflage and overalls and all this other stuff, like those are all things that get him to relate to the common person that is a farmer or that works on a ranch or something along those lines. That's the avenue that he should have been trying to take. I mean, look, if you want to go fishing with anybody, not sure Hitler's the guy, buddy. Just not sure that's the guy. I mean, like I can think of a ton of guys, ton of people. I mean, honestly, I'm like certain guys I'd love to go fishing with. I know they probably wouldn't want to go fishing, like Michael Jordan, he probably couldn't sit still long enough, to go fishing, but I'd love to pick his brain. Love to see how much of an asshole he is, because he is. He's got that hard nose, even to this day, basically doesn't have a lot of friends, talks about not having a lot of friends, not looking for more friends. I want to know what that lifestyle is like. A lot of us try so hard to get clickbait because you want to feel the approval of your people. You don't need to. That's the problem. You don't need to. And it sucks because he put his foot in his mouth and he's going to have to dig himself out of this. He's going to have to get on the mic, in his next fight. Hopefully he gets a win and he's able to just try to clear the air and blatantly just apologize to the world. Because even though people are following him and he's got a following on social media, but the bottom line is there's a lot of people that are casuals that don't follow him that heard what he said. So I'm not saying you need to impress anyone. I'm not saying you need to go against anything that you don't believe, but if you don't believe it, then you shouldn't have said it. So I know he wanted to pick somebody, but man, pick somebody else. Anybody. Yeah. You laid a goose egg, buddy. You laid a goose egg. What else you got for me?
All right. So we got Potan, Alex Pereira. He's going to be cornering Sean Strickland for his UFC title match coming up.
Okay. I like that idea.
Oh yeah, DC. He wasn't feeling it so much.
Why is that?
He said that he feels like it's too risky with my Ankalev coming up for Poton to travel all the way to Australia and corner Sean Strickland. He said, I'm sure you and Sean Strickland are great friends, but like, how close are your guys' bond that you feel you need to do this, you know? Especially when you got a lot on your own plate. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I've trained with DC for the longest time, so I understand. Like, I know where DC's head is. DC doesn't, he's going to focus on being great himself. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to focus on doing that. Good for him. That's the way, you know, but Poatan, I think what it is with him is that he's never stops training. He's never not training. I mean, it seems like no matter where he goes and what he does, he steps into a room. If he's in Australia, he'll go train somewhere over there. He may fly to New Zealand and get some work in with the city kickboxing guys. He's probably got a ton of fighters over there he can get some work in with. It all also depends on how close are the fights.
That is a very good question.
I haven't seen them announce a date yet for the Ankalaev Poatan fight.
So Strickland is next weekend.
What is Strickland
and Duplessis.
Okay.
And March 8th is Pereira and Ankalev.
Okay. So it's next week. So they're already gone. They're probably already in Australia.
A month apart, yeah.
Yeah, a month apart. I mean, I think it's right on that threshold. I mean, I wouldn't have traveled either if it was in that month threshold. You're kind of interfering with the last 4 weeks of camp. You're ramping up on week 4, week 3, and week 2 is your hard ramps. And then that last week is like your last hard sparring sessions, but you're actually dialing it down. So you're doing less, but you're going more intense. So if I come in on a Monday, right, whereas before we would like spar hard for 3 rounds or 5 rounds, and then we'd grapple 3 rounds or 5 rounds. Well, if I know it's the week before the fight, what I'm doing is I'm sparring hard for my 5 rounds, and then I'm not grappling. Then on Tuesday, I'm just wrestling hard for 5 rounds, wrestle hard, intense, wall drills. Then on Wednesday, sparring hard again, on Wednesday, and then probably being done with the hard sparring on Wednesday, unless it didn't go well. Then I'll spar hard on Friday. With probably instead of doing a hard 5, but a good hard 3, giving a hard push, and then also probably taking that Thursday off to give my body a full rest, and then making sure that my Friday sparring is extremely hard. So Poatan, he's been through this. He's 38 years old. He knows exactly what he's doing. He feels comfortable doing the travel and coming back. I don't know how much cornering he's going to do for Sean Strickland. He doesn't speak English. It's very broken.
Chama.
I think it's hilarious though, because, Sean has a way of making sure that all the shit he talks, that people sometimes still want to be around him. And it's remarkable. I'm surprised, to be honest. I mean, some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, I'm like, man, how would anybody ever want to be around you? But, he gives good work. Johnny Eblin loves him, man. Johnny Eblin's like, man, he's a great training partner. He works hard. He's a bitch to deal with, takedown, hold down, those kind of things on the feet. He's just a fucking pain in the ass, like a little gnat, so it's good. I think if he's able to have somebody like that in his corner, someone there to help him work out during the week, touch, spar, touch, kickbox, whatever it is, good for him. Good for him. So what else you got for me?
So recently, Darren Till, he made a tweet mentioning he wants to box Platinum Mike Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And Perry responded to it. Let's go at 185. Belal Muhammad said, "Let me corner you, Mike." Platinum Mike Perry turned him down. How disrespectful to my man. Remember the name Belal Muhammad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not in the sport that Belal's in. I mean, I wonder what the back and forth is. They must not like each other, Darren Till and him.
Yeah, I think they have some spats online. History.
But I guess for me though is, Belal's a good dude. I like being around Belal. We've had him on the podcast. I have nothing bad to say about him, man. And comes out. He's on fire right now. He's intense. I'm looking forward to his fight with Shavkat. And I just think that's a total Mike Perry move, though. Mike Perry's gonna Mike Perry.
Mike Perry also had his girlfriend corner him one time. So.
Yeah, this is very true.
How much did Mike Perry?
I guess then I'd be a little offended that you're not me, but you're gonna have your girlfriend do it. But then he doesn't have to, I mean, I don't think Belal would have taken money from him, but I mean, most corners, they want a percentage. Belal would be like, yeah, it's going to be like 10%. It's a business decision.
Business, yeah.
No, I think, I'd be actually, to be honest, now I am a little offended. If I was Belal, I'd be like, shit, dude, you fucking had your girlfriend corner you one time. What are you talking about? Like, you don't want me to corner you? Son of a gun. Man. Yeah. I'd be upset. I'd feel disrespected. Definitely disrespected. Next one.
We got a couple fight announcements. We got Kevin Holland versus Gunnar Nelson. And then we have King, formerly known as Bobby Green, and Ruffy, Marcel Ruffy.
Yes, that's going to be a good fight. Let me go with the first one, though. Gunnar and Kevin Holland. Look, Kevin needs to get a win. Let's just be honest. Like, Kevin needs to get a win. Like, with Kevin Holland right now, he's just on this thing where I'm just going to fight. I don't really care. And like, dude, you need to get a win. Like, the cool part of the talking mouthpiece and then, like, all the stuff he did on the Jackson podcast with Quentin, very weird, very strange.
70.
Literally the week of the fight.
4570.
Yeah, I don't understand, like, just the blatant disrespect and I mean, look,
and Rampage's such a nice guy,
dude,
like, salt of the earth. Like, he made sure I had his phone number when I stopped working at Thick Boy to try to get me opportunities.
Yeah,
like, that's how nice of it. Like, he didn't. I'm a nobody. He didn't have to do nothing like that.
Well, he saw that we had Rashad on, and I reached out to him and said, "Hey, man, I want to get you on too." And he's like, "Dude, just let me know when." So we'll probably try to have him on this week. But he's a great dude. He's absolutely a great dude. And let's just be honest. Even I don't give a fuck how old Jackson is. He would dog walk Kevin Holland. Fucking he'd put him on a leash and walk him. That is how, like, Quentin Jackson's, he ain't no bitch. Like, he's just a nice guy. That's what's nice about him, is that, like, he could have got up. He knew that is like, yo, this is my show. Like, I've got to take this approach, when you have guests on. That's the hardest part of doing commentary, or that's the hardest part of having a podcast, is when someone says something that is bullshit, or somebody says something that just, is talking off the cuff, you've got to call them out, but you got to do it respectfully. You've got to, not really throw them out there or under, for the crowd to think that they're a total piece of shit. And in that situation, man, I'm glad when I was watching, I was like, man, this is so just off the wall. And I'm glad that like some of the other media sources have like talked about it. Like, was he wrong? Was he not wrong? Like, what was he doing? Like, it was very weird. I know that there was, even some buzz in the UFC. Like, what was he doing? Like, why act that way? Why act that way? Especially like, right before your fight. Like, that's just press that you don't need. And Quentin Jackson's always out there trying to pump the guys, talking about how good they are, talking about how tough they are. That guy don't have a negative bone in his body. I mean, dude, his car got stolen. And he was like cracking jokes left and right about it. Yeah. And then I know he's talking about it when we were on the podcast, the Jackson podcast. He was talking about how his watch got stolen that Lorenzo gave him.
Yeah.
Some hooker or something like that took it, or some girl took it. And it was just funny. It was just funny. Some stripper or something took it.
She sold it to a rapper. Yeah,
but he was just he's just laughing about it. He's like, oh, well, what am I going to do? That's what I get. Duh, But he's just a flow with it kind of guy. So he's an absolute amazing guy, man. Been around. I've known him for a long time before he was champion. And I used to go down and train. In Huntington Beach with Rob McCullough to help him get ready for some of his WC fights. And Quentin was always in there training. And always super respectful, always nice. I did a magazine shoot, like a photo cover shoot, and he let me use his car for it. I was like, hey, can I just like sit on your car, like lean against it, for this magazine shoot? He's like, how much you gonna pay me? I was like, oh, bro. I said, we ain't paying you, dog. And I'm like, this is Make a Wish. This is a Make a Wish. Pro bono, like you said. So he's like, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. So he was cool about it. He's like, just don't scratch it, man. Because that was back when you had like the mech denim jeans and they all had the buckle on the back. Remember those? Like the True Religions that had like the little buckle, like the old Levi buckles. Mm-hmm. So he's like, bro, don't scratch my car. I'm like, the whole thing is carbon fiber. I'm like, it's going to be okay, dog. So anyways, what else you got?
All right, we got PFL releases. We got James Gallagher. We got Norbert Noveni Jr. Both release.
Yeah, they asked for their releases, and what happens is They came in, offered him a low contract. The fighter said, "Nah, I'm good. I'll take my chances somewhere else." I don't know where James Gallagher is going to go. I mean, he might have a little play because Connor, he might be able to get him into the UFC. Norvenu Jr., he's a very young but very talented fighter. I think he's coming off of his first loss, but he's a tough fighter. He comes from the London Shootbox guys. He was there with MVP, so he's like kind of his protege. His dad, I think, was an Olympic gold medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling, so he's got a good wrestling background, good stand-up style, tough kid, man. Built like I think eventually he's going to end up probably being a 205 pounder because I think right now he's an 85 pounder. I don't think he'll be able to make the weight much longer. He's filling out. He's getting thick, his back and his shoulders, legs. He's already got really big legs. So he may end up going up to 205, but he's got a lot of great movement and he can wrestle. So that might be a good signing for the UFC. Look, there's going to be a lot of good fighters that come up. Just the problem is not a lot of them are going to get signed. They're going to have to fight somewhere else for pennies on the dollar. So they had a good thing over there in PFL or they had a good thing over there in Bellator. Those fighters now will look to leave.
Is there any news on Pitbull? No.
Yeah, nothing I can say.
Understandable.
So, there is news on him, but I'm gonna wait for him to release it. And
I'm excited wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's 38 years old. I think he's got a short stint. He can do it. I would like to see him in the UFC. There's fights to be had there. I saw that Aljamain Sterling called him out, said, "Hey, I'll fight you. I'm down." So if that's the case, look, that's a good fight. I'd prefer to see him fight someone like a Jose Aldo, or maybe, if Volk loses to Topuria, maybe Volk. Both same height. I don't think Patricio's ever had to fight someone his same height. So there's guys I would love to see the Danny Ige fight. That to me, I think is like an automatic just barn burner just to watch that fight happen. So, and I think you're trying to get him there as fast as you can. I almost feel like you need to bring him in like how they brought Justin Gaethje in, like with Michael Johnson. You bring him into somebody like a Danny Ige, and then if he electrifies the crowd and he's able to get a great performance or a great finish, then you catapult him into whoever's next. And probably being like the number 2, number 3 guy or something like that, which will probably be like a Volk if he loses, or if Topuria loses, then it'll be a Topuria. But from what I understand, they seem like they're working on that Topuria versus Islam fight at 155, and they are trying to to make the Diego Lopez fight, I think, versus Volkanovski. So if that's the case, then we're going to see how that all plays out. But I mean, looks like they are going to make that fight happen. It'll be a fight at the International Fight Week for Islam and Topuria. I don't like the fight only based on the fact that like he's never going to get any love. People are always going to criticize him as the champion, and if he loses, he got nothing to gain. Like nothing good comes of it. Like if he beats him, he was supposed to beat him because you already beat Volk, who is the longest reigning champion there, and this and that. Topuria's got one win at the weight class, wins the title or whatever, and defends it one time. It's like, cool. I think he beat two amazing fighters in that weight class. But we're also in this position now where it's like, now you're going to come up and now I'm going to fight another 45 pounder. I don't know. I think he's going to wait to see what happens with the Belal and Shavkat. And then I think we see him there. If Belal loses, I think we see he fights Shavkat. So we'll see. What else?
We got upcoming fight, Topuria, his brother, versus Thickness. But we got Volkanovski's in Thickness's corner. Yeah. And obviously, Topuria is going to be in his brother's corner.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't seen Topuria's brother fight, so I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. Hopefully he does well. And look, it'd be nice for the changing of the guard. Maybe the brother comes in, ends up taking the place of Topuria, the other brother. What was there was another fight that you mentioned that I didn't talk on.
Oh yeah, King Green, Bobby Green.
Yeah, Bobby Green and Ruffy. I mean, Ruffy's explosive, but he kind of had a little, I wouldn't say a fraud check. He had a little bit of a reality check in his last fight. Wasn't as explosive, wasn't as exciting. But Bobby Green's always game. He's going to make this a fun fight. Bobby will not wrestle. I mean, he may wrestle, like threaten a takedown, but he probably won't even, once he gets past to getting into it, if he can't get it right away, he'll just let it go. But outside of that, I think Bobby's going to stand and bang with him. So just the thing with Ruffy is he's long, he's lanky, spinning kicks. He's very flashy when he wants to be. But I think Bobby is somebody that can push this pace, especially later in their fight. And we saw on Ruffy's last fight, the explosiveness started to kind of dwindle away by the middle of the second round, maybe even a little bit earlier. So I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. I always enjoy watching Bobby Green fight. He's a fun fighter to watch. Love watching him fight. Next thing. One more. Well, let's do one or two more. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm feeling really under the weather right now. Literally, like, was in bed all day Friday, just in the chills. My bed was like soaking wet from sweating in it. So I got kids here, and they're like walking petri dishes. So yeah, the whole house is sick now. All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, we kind of covered most of the stuff right now.
Let's talk about this real quick.
Yeah, what do you think?
I want to talk about this.
Speaking of promotion, you also made headlines recently because you had some things to say about Donn Davis. Sort of some of the things he alluded to, I think, on his LinkedIn about some of the mistakes he made in PFL, and you kind of said, like, this is like really bad promotion. Like, overall, like, looking at PFL and what they've done, do you have an issue with them, or is it you just don't like the way they promote? Or
no, like, honestly, I just man, I hate saying this because he seems like a nice guy. I would love to sit with him and just understand. Maybe I'm misunderstanding him. I don't think he understands anything about combat sports, and I don't think that if you're not in this shit, if you can't roll on the mats with me, I don't think you should be part of it. You know what I mean? Like, he's never trained martial arts in his life, and I'm saying this ignorantly. I don't know if he has, but there's no way, right? Like, can the guy throw up a triangle? You know what I mean? How is he going to understand what it's like for a fighter to do certain things? Or when Patricio Pitbull hasn't fought in so long and is begging for a fight in the prime years of his career, he doesn't understand that. Yeah. He comes from a finance background, which is wonderful, but stay in the background then and put Ray Sefo in front. Imagine this. Please imagine this for a moment. Imagine if Ray Sefo was president. It would be really respectable. It would be unbelievable. Like, how can you say anything bad about Ray Sefo? Put Donn Davis in the background. He handles whatever back there. He's a finance guy. Great. But hearing him talk about fighters and fighting, it doesn't even sound like he watches fights. So I'm not impressed by him. I'm not impressed by what he says.
Speaking of promotion, you also made headlines recently.
So that was I believe, the promoter for Karate Combat. He was making some comments about Donn Davis, and then just the mishaps of what's going on with the fighters over at PFL. And it's not even so much a mishap. It's like, I'm glad that he's willingly letting some of these guys go. But I've also been told that he's kind of willing to also hold some of them hostage. So I hope that's not true. But some of them are already free agents, and the ones that have asked for release, I believe they've granted a lot of them their release. Aaron Pico is already, he's a free agent. He's full, released. I don't know if they released him or if his contract was just out. But I know that he'll probably end up going to the UFC. I know the UFC has interest. Dana White even said he's got interest in him. But what he said is what John and I have been saying for the longest time. If I can mix two things, if I could take a person that was a good, that could raise capital, I would probably pick Donn Davis and Peter Murray. But then if I had to pick someone to, at least in the landscape that I'm in, that I could have promote the promotion, it'd probably be Scott Coker. So if you put the two of them together, I think they'd have success. Problem is, though, is that guys like them, they don't work well together. There needs to be a hierarchy, and I don't think that Donn and Peter would honor that hierarchy, and I know that Scott Coker wouldn't either. Scott's always been the boss. And so I look at it, I'm like, man, if you can mix those two guys up together, like with Coker, he just ran into a problem where, with Showtime, he wasn't the owner of the company. He wasn't the owner of Bellator. He could have made that show a lot better and bigger. They wouldn't let him do it. They were trying to do the best they could, but they were also every turn they were trying to cut back something every time. It didn't matter what it was. They kept trying to cut it back, and I know there was a pitch, to try to keep us on CBS Sports. That would have been a Thursday night fight night. Could have had fights every other weekend there. People would have known where to find us. It was getting around 250 to 350,000 views every single time. Would have gotten more than that had you been on a reliable, a network and continue to be there forever. But instead they decided to put us behind a paywall, but everything that he was saying outside of like, I I think you need to. I think at some point, if you're a promoter, you should probably have trained some sort of martial art to understand and respect what the fighters are going through. I don't think he needs to know how to throw up a triangle. You know what I mean? But I think he needs to know like what it's like to actually train really hard, break a sweat, get hit in the face. I think that's part of it. You got to understand what it's like to get popped in the mouth without a mouthpiece.
I think it's a little too late for him.
What's that?
I think it might be too late for him right now.
Oh no, it is too late. It is too late for that. No, it is. I think it's too late for that promotion. I don't. They'll be able to, I think, gather some money. They'll be able to. It depends on how well they do in this new format. But it's hard to tell your investors that, hey, we're changing everything we're doing because it wasn't working. Like, well, you've given me millions and millions of dollars, and now all of a sudden it's because it wasn't working. I'm changing it, but I want you to still believe in me. That's very difficult. It's very difficult when you're doing cap raises and you have you have investors going, hey, I have not seen any return on my investment yet. And I've said this, I'll continue to say this. The PFL is very executive heavy. They've got too many executives at the top that are taking money. They need more people down below to make this thing pop more. You need more social media, which I believe their social media does a pretty damn good job for what they have. I've seen their social media crew. They do a pretty good job putting things together. This whole smart cage thing, I felt like was a waste of time. I mean, I know they're pushing it, but it's no different than any other fucking cage. Trust me, I've been in it. There's nothing different or special about it. That's it. It's nothing special about it. It's not a smart cage. It's a fucking cage. But then when he said like, hey, Ray Seifu would, put Ray in there. I disagree with that. I love Ray. I think Ray is a fantastic human being. But Ray's not equipped to handle that job. That's just the bottom line. I think he's great. Relationship with the fighters. We can have him interact, maybe doing fighter relations, but nothing to do, I think, not in terms of like being the actual promoter, the face of the organization. You're going to have to put someone there that understands the sport, understands the business, and I'm going to be honest. Like if it was to be somebody, right, you'd have to pick somebody, that carries himself with class, somebody that can speak well in front of people, someone that understands the business on the ins and outs, the management side, the contract side, the promotion side, the matchmaking side. I mean, there's not a lot of them out there. Let's just be honest. I mean, the sport is a relatively small sport. It's big worldwide. I get that. UFC is huge. But in terms of how many people can do these people's jobs, it's very small. Sure, you can get people to fill in and do it, but it's not a big group. And can they do it at the level which the promoter wants it to be done? I can name one person right off the top of my head, which would be Rich Chow. Like he's probably the guy that I would think the most that would be able to do. He understands the contract side. He understands the matchmaking side. He understands the promotion side. Definitely understands the marketing side of it all. Like he understands all of that. So I think that he's somebody that could do that. But then does he want to be the face? That's the other thing. Not a lot of guys want to have their face up there in front of people for the criticism. Nobody wants to really be fucking torn down by media. No one wants to be torn down by the fans. Like, let's just be like, I have to be 100% honest, man. Like, I've got fan mail at my house before. That's really awkward. I mean, I have like a PO box for fan mail that it goes to and this and that and stuff. But like getting fan mail at your house, like I literally have paid like when I was living in San Jose, I paid the city of San Jose to take all my stuff down, all my private information. I had them all taken down. I paid like a monthly fee to have it taken down and stay off. And they still found a way to mail me shit. That's weird. Because even when I try to look it up, I couldn't find it. I'm like, okay, look, I looked here. I looked at the water bills. I looked at the like water, electric. I looked at all those like companies to see if I could find my information. Nothing. Garbage bill company, nothing. Can't find any of my information on there. So the fact is like it gets kind of weird. Do you want to have your face in the forefront? And then you're out walking with your family and your kids. People don't like the way you matchmake something. People don't like something the way you said. It doesn't feel safe sometimes. And so, but do I think Ray Seifu? I love Ray Seifu to death. But everything this guy said, he's kind of right on. I think his presentation of it all a little like, it just didn't come across right. But I thought he was making some good points. Some good points. All right, hey guys, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Big John will be back, I believe, by Tuesday. I think he gets back tonight or tomorrow. But I've been feeling sick. Sorry for the sneezing or sorry the coughing and all the other stuff to go along with this. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Doing the best I can. I got the chills. I'm sweating right now. My back is sweating, but I also got the chills. So I want to thank you guys so much. If you guys can, do us a favor, man. If you want to support our show, support our sponsors, use the link down below for Element. He's going to play this commercial earlier in the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that commercial. And also, too, subscribe to us over at OnlyFans, man. We do a couple little live shows over there once every month. And then we also provide some extra content over there. Our fan favorite fighter of the month. Like I say, go check out that content over there. You will not see any smut on there. You will not be part of any of that if you don't follow any of that. So if you only subscribe to us and other MMA fighters, you only see their content. You will not see anything else. And of course, BetUS, YouTube 150 is the promo code. YouTube 150 is the promo code. And man, until next time, guys, we'll see you.